Hey, everybody, I'd like to welcome you to a new Intentional Living podcast. This one is going to feature myself, Marty Keller, and my colleague and good friend, Dan Gutierrez. We both facilitate intentional living meetings along with John Donovan, who taught us all of this information. John and I, of course, do a podcast that's available on this channel, but this is brand new, and we have a slightly different theme. The theme is from a quote by Socrates. Socrates said, "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." And Dan, you came up with this quote as part of the way you envision the work. Just share with us a little bit about where that came from and what your thoughts are about this focus.
Yeah, I learned this quote here when I was in my recovery. The first two times that I was trying to become sober, I wound up focusing on don't use drugs, don't use drugs, don't use drugs. And so what happened was I relapsed. And finally, the third time, I focused on sobriety, focused on what I wanted in my life, not what I didn't want. So as I focused on sobriety, the drug issue, the people, places, and things that used to be in the past involved in that, slowly faded away, and here I sit 16 years later, clean and sober, and I'm still focused on my sobriety. So it's not about fighting the old, because what I fight, I strengthen. What I resist, I persist, and I'm focusing on creating the life that I want to lead, rather than trying to change the past. So that's where I'm at on that.
Do you think that it's a normal habit that we have to focus on the problem rather than the solution? Is this a challenge because it's something we're not used to?
Well, I think it's an old paradigm. People, I myself came from a paradigm of everything is broken, and the only way to create the life that you want is to fix everything that's broken. So for me, what I also learned is that I came from a system that only focused on what I didn't get right, my imperfection, in an attempt that if I could do it perfectly, I would create whatever it is that I want. So what I learned to do is to focus on everything that was wrong. I never focused on what I was doing well and move towards or address the other things, rather than address the other things solely and not give myself credit or give myself value for the things that I was doing right. I also learned the way this happens for me is that was the expectation, perfection, and I realized that that didn't work for me. So rather than be validated for what I did right, I was criticized, or everything was pointed out that I did wrong. So hence, all I did was focus on the things that were wrong, rather than continue to do the things that I did well, and slowly add these other things in to achieve the goals that I'm looking for. And I realized that in my recovery that there is nothing wrong. That's a belief system. That's a belief that comes from past paradigms. My family of origin is that we work on things that are wrong, rather than focus on what it is we want to do in life. I think it comes from a paradigm of old beliefs, and the question becomes, eventually, I had to ask the question. I had to become accountable. Is this working for me? And I realized that I wasn't living a life of perfection, trying to achieve perfection. I was focusing on imperfection. So what did I create more of? Imperfection. I never got to, I just kept focusing on the things that were wrong. And as I found out, not to my amazement, but as an awareness, I continually find something that's wrong. I never get to where I'm going through the constant looking at what the hell is wrong and trying to fix it, so eventually that I will be perfect. And, what do I have perfection confused with? I have perfection equals love and acceptance and validation of my worth.
So in other words, in order to be loved, you have to be perfect. That was the belief.
Yes, I have to achieve. I have to become something other than myself, because and we're human beings, and we're not perfect. And the self criticism, right? I learned that well. So all I did was focused on what I did wrong constantly, and hence my relationships with other people, work, friendships, relationships, intimate relationships, I always focused on what was wrong. And
so how did it happen that you got the insight that this wasn't working and something else might?
Back in when I got clean and sober, that was like the first awareness that I had, that focusing on what I don't want, to give some background, that I've been working this process since 2005 and 6. I got clean and sober in 2008. And some of the things I remembered, and it's like, focus what it is you want, and I thought focusing on something that I don't want was going to give me what I did want. No, and it's like, okay, well, I failed twice. Well, what am I doing wrong? And okay, well, sit down and let's focus in on what it is I do want. The underlying, if I quit using drugs, I'm going to lead a life of sobriety. That's not true. I'll just be free of drugs. That's not sobriety. Sobriety is, I'm engaged in my recovery. I'm being of service. I'm focused on myself, and I'm supporting other people in their recovery. To me, that's what sobriety is. And using drugs is part of it. I have to quit using drugs. I have to quit my addiction to be able to focus in on, have the conscious awareness to focus in on what it is I do want. And so that played out. And then in 2010 or 2012, I graduated from aviation school, aviation mechanic school, and I decided, well, I'm going to use this principle. What is it I do want? So my goal was, okay, I want to work in the restoration department of a facility that restores aircraft. And lo and behold, I put all my energy toward that, and I got the job. I was, in the facility. I was doing what I wanted to do, and then the awareness was, I didn't ask exactly what I wanted. I got the job that I wanted. The universe supported me in that, but I realized that I wanted to work in the restoration department where they restored aircraft to flying. So it's like, okay, let's focus in on creating that, because this works. I just need to be more specific. I got what I asked for, and
so you were working in restoration, like in historical pieces.
Yeah, we would
like museum quality stuff.
Yeah, so we focused in on things, the paint, they're glorified lawn ornaments because they got them parked outside. And they're in the baking sun, and so eventually you got to repaint them, bring them in, sand them down, clean them up, and then put them back out.
But they're not flying.
They're not flying. No, they're far from it.
Right.
But it was just like, that was the awareness. So it's like, okay, well, I need to continually focus on what I want to create, and then it became, everything in my life started going like that. It's like, what do I want? I want to be in a relationship, and it's like, okay, well, let's be specific. What kind of relationship do I want to be in? Let's make a list. The universe is going to work for me, irregardless. What I learned was I need to be specific, and so I made a list of those things, and 20, 24, 25 qualities that I wanted in the person in my relationship, and lo and behold, the universe supported me. And I got 22 out of 24, and it's like, I'm not gonna turn this down. It's like, I'm getting what I want, and it's like, okay, engage.
So for the person who might be watching this for the first time, let's bring this to the accountability practice. So one of the things I hear when I'm listening to you is the second element of we call it the accountability tree practice. The second element of that is, what do I want? So there seems to be some coherence with what you thought about in this practice. Could you tell us, elaborate a little bit on that?
So for me, how I apply the accountability practice, I become accountable for where I'm at. I got to know where I'm at before I can decide where I want to go. So it's like
because that's the first element of the accountability tree.
Right.
What's going on right now?
Right. Where I'm at, in this particular case, it's where am I at and where do I want to go? And this is like job employment aspect of it. But for the accountability practice is what do I need to be accountable for? Right? What should I be accountable for? That's the step one.
And how do we use the word accountable here?
Accountability is
because you know what people are going to hear if they're hearing it for the first time.
Accountability is me stating the truth about my behavior without blame or judgment. Accountability is me stating the data about my relationship to people, places, and things without blame or judgment. Accountability is me stating the data, period, of where I find myself without blame or judgment.
So it's like giving an account as opposed to giving blame.
Right. I need to know where I'm at. It's like a GPS. A GPS is a great device, but if you don't tell it where you're at, you're not going to find any direction to where you want to go.
So it helps to start by telling the truth about what's actually going on with me in the moment.
Right.
Particularly when I'm dealing with something that's freaking me out, or perhaps it's an old habit that keeps showing up again and it's steering me in the wrong direction, even though I say I don't want this.
Yeah. It's been my experience. This is the hardest part of the process. People don't know necessarily what to be accountable for. I've used many different aspects. It's like, where do you find yourself right now? For me, the one thing that helps a lot of people is like, where do I find myself? And another way to look at it is what's triggering me. We all understand that feeling, right? What I'm being triggered by. And that's a great insight. It's like, I'm being triggered right now. Okay, so-and-so is doing something and I'm being triggered. Okay, all right. How am I feeling right now? I'm feeling, have anxiety, fear. All right. That's what we're talking about, is being accountable for that internal state, right? It's not necessarily about the narrative that goes with it. Being accountable for my participation in relationships to people, places, and things. Being accountable for where I find myself in the current reality, current moment. That's where it starts. When I can be accountable for how I feel, right? I start off with so-and-so's triggering me, and it's like, well, how do I feel? That's what we're looking for. How am I feeling? I'm feeling anxious.
So you're talking about an actual physical sensation.
Absolutely.
In the body.
Absolutely. And that's part of the process, is to develop that relationship and stay out of the narrative, stay out of the story. But when I first do this, I'm going to be in the story, right? So-and-so is triggering me. It's like, okay, how am I feeling is the next question. I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling hurt. That's what I can be accountable for, not somebody else's behavior. And through the connection with me feeling my feelings, I reconnect to myself, because I connect through the connection of feeling my feelings is a direct connection to me, my authentic self. And then based on that, right, it's state my truth. The emotion's going to happen. Take a deep breath, and then I can either sit in the wisdom of my feelings, and then something will arise from that moment of what it is I actually want. So what is it I do want? What do I want that I don't have in the moment? Right? Do I want more anxiety? Do I want more fear? Do I want more hurt in my life? That gives me the opportunity to focus, like Socrates said, focus my energies on building the new. And I've used where I've been, current reality. I felt my feelings and allowed those feelings to give me the wisdom that they hold, so I can ask for what it is I want that I don't have. And it may be I want to feel calm, I want to feel peaceful, and I want to feel serene. That's focusing on the new. So as I repeat this cycle, what I do is I engage the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind learns through repetition. So each time I become accountable for where I find myself, I validate myself, take a deep breath, because a lot of times we don't necessarily consciously understand that we feel these emotions when I validate something, when I validate my experience. Everybody has that experience of taking that deep breath. They may not notice it that they're doing it, but that's me feeling my feelings. And then I ask for what direction do I want to go? How do I create my future? And through repetition, over time, what it is that I want becomes the new norm, the default setting. But it takes repetition. And that's the beauty of the accountability practice is I get to practice all the time. And like I said, the subconscious mind is a habitual mind. It learns through doing things over and over and over and over again. And some of us have lived our lives 60 plus years with old beliefs, old habits that are running in the background in a subconscious mind that we don't have access to until we have a process like the accountability tree that, where do I find myself? I'm feeling. Tells me where I'm at right now. Not about where I've been, whatever. In the moment, I'm present. I'm focused on what's going on with me. And with that awareness, I move to the next step. What is it I want that I don't have? And then I repeat that process over and over and over again. And that creates the building the new. Because what a lot of people do, it's been my experience, I think you and I have done this, we do everything, we become accountable for what it is, but we get to the point, we feel our feelings, feel the emotions, and then we stopped at the moment. It was like, I forget to ask what it is I want.
Right. I'm so proud that I feel, because I haven't been feeling for so long. It's like, finally, I'm feeling something.
And it becomes, okay, it's like, okay, it's good, right? That's the process. This is how I learned how to do it too. But what I've also learned is if I don't add in that what is it I want that I don't have, all I do is recreate that circle again and again and again. And through the fact that I have this process of asking for what it is I don't want, I get myself out of the loop. I no longer find myself in the circle again. I've now created an off-ramp. I've created a detour to where it is I really want to go. So it's kind of reframing the old feelings, but it also puts me in the present moment when I feel my feelings and I can feel safe to do it. But it's a process.
Well, that's what I love about it. And I had never thought of it in terms of this quote from Socrates, so I really appreciate that. That when I feel my feelings, and oftentimes because they're a trigger, so trigger is past, showing up in the present moment. Something unresolved from something that happened to me as a little kid, something out there is reminding you, like, you've triggered me in the past, or I've let you trigger me is a more accurate version of that. We've been through this before as friends, but it isn't about you. No. It's about me. Something happened in my past, it's unresolved, and you're reminding me of it. So I like this process because it brings me present to feeling that feeling that may have originated back there, but rather than letting the experience of the little kid experience of that persist in this moment, by becoming present to it, I make it present. And then once I do that, like you said, I can say, okay, well, what do I want? If I can't do that, then I'm still going to be run as if it's happened back there and I'm 2 years old, 3 years old, 4, 5, or maybe as a teenager, some girl said something to me and I got so embarrassed I said, I'll never say anything like that again, or whatever it is.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I love the process, because it helps me get out of the old by making it something present. Right. And if it's present, now I'm in this is what I like to say, I'm in the field of all possibility. When I'm present, I remember the first time in a meeting sitting there and getting noticing what I was feeling about whatever we were working on. And I had this insight. It's like, when I'm feeling this, nothing else is happening but feeling. So I'm like in this field of all possibility. I'm not feeling conflicted. My mind's not wandering away. I'm just right here. And this present moment, it turns out it's the springboard for this thing, the new. How do I build the new?
Right.
And that's what I get from the accountability practice, and that's what I get from what you've been sharing. It's like getting present, being accountable, accounting for what's going on here in the moment, brings me to this possibility of creating something new. But did you find when you were doing this originally, you talked about forgetting to say what I want?
Yeah.
That there's some of that for you. I don't know about you, but for me, some of it came from I didn't think I had the right to have what I want. Like I had an invisible censor that said, "Don't go there. You can't have what you want." Another reflection back to childhood. So many things I wanted as a kid, I was told you can't have that, and so I just learned to shut that down. Did you have that experience, or did you have other resistance to what do I want?
Well, for me, I thought that without consciously creating the intention, speaking it out loud, I thought I did this in my head. Right? It's like, okay, I'm already doing all this, right? And it's just like, well, wait a minute here, there's a reason that there's this process. And if I don't ask for what I want, right, speak it into the universe, well, I'm going to shortcut it, right? I don't want to be seen talking to myself, right? All these things. And it's like, well, where's that coming from? Do I want to feel embarrassed, or am I think I'm going to be embarrassed by me figuring out how to do this process? Yeah, there's that imperfection again. There's that shame, and if I don't speak out loud, people won't make fun of me. And it's like, okay, here we go. Now I can be accountable for that. And it's just one step led to the other, and now it's that's all not all I do, but the majority of my time, I'm accountable for what it is I want, and it's become such a repetitive habit. It's subconscious almost, and I don't necessarily break it down into those steps, But what I do find myself in is that I am accountable. I consciously go, what are you doing here? I'm feeling this. All right, take a deep breath. What does you want? And when I facilitate my groups and stuff like that, my number one focus is, to get people to walk around and constantly ask that question. Where do you find yourself? Oh, I'm being agitated and annoyed. Okay, well, let's be accountable for that. And then take a deep breath. What it is I want to create. And consciously create my day through the validation of the past, my triggering. And over time, what I've developed is the ability to notice the pattern. What am I being accountable for? What's the last 25, 30 times, where have I found myself? What's the pattern? I keep being accountable for anxious, fear, and hurt. And that's like, okay. So there's a pattern there, right? Okay. Right. So that gives me new insight to what's going on with me? What's true? Why am I defensive, right? What's really going on? What I'm learning is that I've created a story around the behavior, but the truth is, for me, I'm discovering that a majority of my issues are around fear of attachment and fear of rejection, which is loss of attachment. And through all this constant or persistent being accountable for stuff has led me to that. It's like, I'm in fear and anxiety a lot, Where do I find myself? Okay, fear and anxiety. Okay, let's be accountable for that. And let's look at the pattern. Where's this fear and anxiety coming from? Fear of going to work because I'm not doing a good job. Fear of my relationships not being successful because I'm not doing something. Here again, I'm right back into the family of origin. I'm trying to fix things, trying to be perfect so I can be, we call it love, but for me, I'm trying to stay out of that. That's an adult concept. It's very nebulous. But when I understand that I'm trying to create attachment, that's very specific. That's a human characteristic. That's a human trait. That's a human drive. And
well, in our next time together, I'd like to explore that in greater detail, attachment, because that's probably a concept most people who are listening to this have never heard. But we've got just a few minutes left here for this time together. So I'd like you to share why you think doing this in a group process is so important, so we can invite people to participate.
Yeah, I think that most people were traumatized in the presence of other human beings, and healing happens also in groups of human beings. Here again, human beings are designed to be in a social network so we can support each other. That's how we learn how to navigate our emotions. If we don't have other people who've been through an experience to model it, share their experience, I'm being deprived. I'm isolating myself with only my experience to grow.
Right.
And if I do it within a group, I have, X amount of people who are working on the same thing at different stages than I may be, and they can give me insight, or they can model what it looks like that I want, or I can recognize it and I go, I like that. I don't know maybe what it is, but
right. Well, my experience also is people can see about me what I can't see.
Correct.
And as long as I can trust the group to have my best interest at heart when they share with me, now we use a certain way of speaking to each other in our group, so we don't say, "Hey, you said something that was something you probably didn't want to say." No, we don't use that kind of language. We use a much more inviting language. Like, would you be willing to consider? I have something I just saw. Would you be willing to hear me? And then the other person can say yes or no. That creates a sense that it's safe to listen to what somebody might say that in another context I might hear as a criticism and then get defensive, and then shut down and not learn anything.
No, I mean, the greatest thing I learned about being in a group, a safe group and a trusting group, is that healing is possible because they model the environment that I'm actually drawn to. That I may not consciously know it, but I intuitively know that's what I'm drawn to, because the way I feel, and the safer I feel, the more I can trust, and creates the opportunity to be vulnerable and share these experiences with people who don't judge me, don't blame me, don't shame me, and don't guilt me.
Right.
And that's the power of our groups, is that they're facilitated, and you and I, we maintain that safety in the group. So when people come, we maintain that safety above all else, and so people can grow.
Yeah. Well, we discipline ourselves. Again, John taught us this, and then we learned the hard way through hard knocks and making mistakes and so forth. But we've disciplined ourselves. I'll just speak for me. I've disciplined myself that whenever I'm in a group, nobody's wrong. There's nothing's broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. People are coming here because they have something that isn't working in their lives, and I assume that they have what they need to figure out what they want.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to ask that question.
Right.
Or they're afraid to ask it. So we create a space that encourages accountability. Okay, well, how are you feeling right now?
Right.
Let's just start with just what's going on right now.
That's the humanistic movement with Carl Rogers and John Bowlby, those guys. Their philosophy, same thing yours and I's and John's, is that people have the capacity to do the healing, right? They don't need us, right? They're
Exactly.
not, because they're not broken, right?
Exactly.
We don't see them as broken.
Exactly.
They don't need to be fixed. So yeah, and then it's like what I share in the group is like, if you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed. All these things. It's like, well, where are you spending all your energy now that if you believe that you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed, there's nothing wrong with you. All of a sudden, it's like, well, what are you going to do? And it's like, yeah, I I got all this free time. How about, now the possibility becomes, well, let's focus on using that energy to create the future, because there's nothing wrong.
Like, what do you want?
What do you want that you don't have?
Exactly.
And you can read that one more time, and that's the theme.
The secret of change is to focus all of your energy. I'll say all, just to make it personal. The secret of change is to focus all my energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new.
Yep.
So with that, I want to thank you for taking some time to share this information. And I'd like to invite anybody who's watching this to stay for the end of the podcast. There's information on how to join these meetings. There's a meeting that takes place in Sacramento in person, and all the rest are also on Zoom. This meeting here and that will be coming up later on is a hybrid meeting, so you can join it in person or on Zoom. And the information on how to get to any of those meetings will be at the end of the podcast. So please feel free to come and join us. If you come to a meeting, you don't have to participate. You can just listen, or you can jump in the deep end. Either way, whatever works for you. So this is our first inaugural podcast. I've had a good time. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, as always. Thank you.
Thank you.